Good morning, directors. It is 9:31 on November 13th, 2025, and I now call to order the joint meeting of the Boards of Directors of the San Joaquin Hills Transportation Corridor Agency and the Foothill Eastern Transportation Corridor Agency. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Vice Chair.
Actually, let's begin first with the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. The invocation will be led by Director Connors, and the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Director Grant.
We're gathered this morning in service to the traveling public. May we bring open minds, steady judgment, and shared purpose to our work. We are entrusted with connecting people and places, helping our communities move safely and efficiently. May our work today reflect wisdom, respect, and cooperation. May we be mindful of those who travel our roads and committed to their safety and well-being. Let our efforts today make life better for all of our staff and for all travelers on life's shared journey. As we celebrate and appreciate our veterans this week, let us also make a special request for safety and protection for all those who are serving now, and ask for blessings on all our veterans. Amen.
Good morning. Please join me in the pledge to our great flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Now, Madam Clerk, may we please have the roll?
Vice Chair Otto.
Here.
Director Connors.
Here.
Director Grant. Director Zandbergen.
Here.
Director Payzold.
Present.
Director Stevens. Vice Chair Voits.
Here.
Director Beal.
Here.
Director Bilodeau. Director Chafee.
Present.
Director Lim.
Here.
Director Meeks.
Here.
Director Schnell.
Here.
Chair Penalosa. Chair Kelly.
Here.
Director Foley. Director Frost. Director Go.
Here.
Director Taylor.
Here.
Alternate Teo.
Here.
Chair, Director Zhao. Chair, we have quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And I see we do have one public comment. So at this time, members of the public may address the boards of directors regarding any items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the boards of directors, but no action may be taken on off-agenda items unless authorized by law. Public comments shall be limited to 3 minutes per person. And I see we do have Mr. Chris Pesavento, who has turned in a speaker's slip. Mr. Pesavento?
Good morning. My name is Chris Pesavento. I'm a National Veteran Service Officer with the Catholic War Veterans. We've been supporting veterans of all religions since 1935. I myself am an Army veteran that served in Vietnam in 69 and 70, and I thank God every day I'm alive. I've been helping veterans since I retired in 2014. Are there any veterans in the room?
Can they stand?
Take note.
Can they stand? Mr. Thank you. Go
Take
ahead.
note that 6% of the population are veterans. If you multiply what we got in this room, we're pretty close. So it's always interesting. I would sincerely like to thank the Board of Directors and the staff that helped process and approve the use of standard plates for Route 71, 133, 241, 261 for disabled veterans. This means a lot to disabled veterans, because they do not like to display disabled veterans' plates. They're just too proud. So it means a lot. I go up to Long Beach all the time, and I see these guys with conventional plates with the sticker, and I talk to them. And that's how this whole thing started, where I presented to the board, and it was very nice of all of you. I feel I get a lot, I had a lot of emotion this morning when I was talking to some of the board members, because it brings back memories of all the veterans I've helped in your communities. I've been doing this quite a few years, and unfortunately, a lot of the veterans are so proud, they wait until the last years when they have to go in a nursing home and they really need some money before they go to the VA. So anyhow, I would like to see this disabled veterans plate recognition expanded to all fast-track California roads, which includes the 91 and the 405. It is amazing to me that disabled veterans do not get the same reduced fees that carpoolers receive on the CA toll roads. In my opinion, all disabled veterans should get waived fees as a token of our appreciation. We need to recognize veterans since less than 6% of the U.S. population served in the armed forces. Orange County has about 83,000 veterans presently, with an estimated 1,500 to 2,000 rated at 100% disabled. The regular population has about a 17% decline, while 100% veterans have a 33% decline. Out of 3 million veterans that served in Vietnam,
Please continue.
less than 1 million are alive today because of Agent Orange cancer and other conditions. Roughly 55,000 soldiers served in Vietnam, and died in Vietnam, and another 300,000 have died since because of Agent Orange. The Middle East isn't any better, with burn pits and burning oil that our veterans have destroyed some of their lung capacity. I know both of us get a lot out of helping veterans that served our country, since veterans have no idea their life would have been shortened by these elements. The thing I cherish most about being a VSO is that I have met a lot of heroes, especially in your communities. Kenneth Weigel was a World War II B-17 bomber, lived in Irvine in the Groves. Another Vietnam veteran, Ken Cooper, was a foot soldier that died from Agent Orange. Victor Rodriguez, he was a Vietnam Army veteran that carried an M60. Their life expectancy was 10 minutes. Doug Duplessis, a Coast Guard and Merchant Marine, also lived in Irvine. They have the highest rate, Merchant Marines had the highest rate of deaths in all the services, and they weren't even in the service until later, when the president said, hey, you guys deserve to be in the services. I met the wife of Loretta and son of Major Elvin Miller, a World War II Army Ranger. Major Elvin Miller was killed in 1944 in the Battle of Anzio. That was a battle where the Rangers divided into 2 divisions. One division got killed, except for a couple, and the other ones made it through. Sergeant Tom Gaynor, a World War II Army Ranger that served in all 5 invasions, along with First Lieutenant Jimmy Thierry, a World War II Ranger that lived in Orange County, I think it was Dana Point, and wrote the book, Spearheaders. If you haven't seen that book, let me know. Dr. Edward Rose, a Vietnam co-pilot, shot down twice 2 Purple Hearts. He gave me a special book on the Darby Rangers. I digitized it, so if anybody wants a copy, just give me your email address or somebody's email address, and I will send it to you. Fabulous book. It is not easy to get. Later, this gentleman became the director of the CIA for South America. My father was a World War II Navy sailor, and surprisingly, he was on the USS St. Paul, which fired the last shell on Japan, which I only found out because I was helping a veteran that served on that ship that had asbestos problems. Later, that same ship shelled North Vietnamese when I was in Vietnam. in Quinyon Bay. So please consider giving our disabled veterans waived tolls throughout California and the U.S. because they really deserve it. Their life expectancy is shorter than what everybody thinks. Are there any questions?
Thank you, sir, for bringing this to our attention. And every one of us was very pleased to be able to accommodate that request for the toll roads that we control. Those beyond what you've announced are out of our control. But thank you for bringing this to our attention. And
I thank you for your
God bless our
response.
veterans. We're very grateful to you and each one of our veterans.
Thank you very much.
Madam Clerk, do we have any additional public comments?
There are no additional public comments.
Thank you. All right, directors, if you have any questions or comments, remember to use the device in front of you. And we will now move on to our San Joaquin Hills consent calendar, which are items numbers 1 through 3, 5, 7, and 9 through 13. Would any directors like to pull any of those items?
Connors, I move the consent calendar.
Second.
We have a motion from Director Connors and a second from Vice Chair Otto. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. We will now move to the consent calendar for the Foothill Eastern, and we have items 1 and 2, 4, 6, and 8 through 13. Would any directors like to pull or discuss any of those items?
I'd like to move consent calendar, please.
We have a motion by Vice Chair Voits and a second by Janice Lim. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And any opposed? That passes unanimously. We'll now move to our board business, which are items 14 through 18, and we will first hear item number 14, On-Call Lands Management Services, and we will hear from our Doug Faramenga, our Manager of Environmental Planning. May we have that report, please?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair and Directors. Good morning. I'm Doug Faramenga, your Environmental Planning Manager. This item focuses on our on-call lands management services, an essential program for maintaining and enhancing the integrity of our mitigation sites and facilities. Today, I'll outline staff's recommendations, including our procurement approach, evaluation results, and the firms that we're proposing to pre-qualify for these services. Staff is requesting board's approval to pre-qualify 3 firms for 5 years with the option for 3 one-year extensions: Recon Environmental, Nakai and Associates, and Mariposa Landscapes. This item was reviewed by the Joint Environmental Committee on October 22nd, and the committee unanimously recommended it be brought to the boards for consideration. To manage over 2,100 acres of mitigation sites and our toll facilities, the agencies rely on on-call contractors for critical land management services, including controlling invasive species, reducing wildfire risk by managing fuel loads, installing and repairing fences, access road maintenance, and erosion control. These services are critical not only for compliance with our environmental permits and regulatory standards, but also for preserving the ecological integrity and ensuring safe and reliable access to our lands and facilities. Our current contracts with Recon and Nakai were established in 2017 through a competitive procurement process and will expire at the end of this year on December 31st. These were 5-year contracts with options for 3 one-year extensions. To prepare for the next cycle, we issued a request for statement of qualifications in July 2025 and received 6 responses. A panel of 2 TCA staff members and an external expert evaluated submissions based on firm profile, professional capability, staffing capacity, relevant experience, as well as administrative efficiency. The top-ranked firms, Recon, Nakai, and Mariposa Landscapes, those three were the top 3 ranked firms. Recon and Nakai are our incumbent firms with strong performance records. Mariposa adds depth and capacity. All 3 firms had strong references from agencies such as OC Parks, OC Public Works, and local cities. The estimated value for these services across the 2 agencies is presented in this slide. Work will generally be awarded through competitive task orders among the 3 pre-qualified firms, ensuring cost control and flexibility. The base contract term spans for 5 years through fiscal year 2031, with a total estimated value of about $2,117,000 for San Joaquin and approximately $1.9 million for the Foothill Eastern Agency. The 3 optional 1-year extensions, which would see us through fiscal year 2034, add just over $1 million, roughly $83,000 for San Joaquin Hills and $983,000 for the Foothill Eastern. Combined, the base and optional years total $3.1 million for the entire 8 years. To ensure we have flexibility for any unforeseen needs, staff is requesting a 10% contingency. That brings the total authorization request to about $3.4 million, $220,000 for the San Joaquin Hills and $3.2 million for the Foothill Eastern. This structure allows us to maintain compliance, manage costs, and stay responsive to future land management demand. At this time, staff recommends the San Joaquin Hills approve the 3 firms, Recon Environmental, Nakai and Associates, and Mariposa Landscapes. Authorize the CEO to enter into contracts with each firm for 5 years with 3 1-year extension options for an aggregate total not to exceed $200,000 and allow adjustments within a 10% threshold without returning to the board. For the Foothill Eastern Agency, staff is recommending the same 3 firms for 5 years with 3 1-year extension options for an aggregate not to exceed amount of $2.9 million and allowing adjustments within 10% without returning to the board. That concludes my report, Madam Chair, and we'll be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Faramenga. We do have a few requests to speak, so we'll go first to Vice Chair Voits and then Donald Wagner.
Doug, I love what TCA does for the environment. You know, we're a leading environmental highway builder in the state, if not the nation, because of the example that we've put forth with the wildlife fencing, which saved uncountless mountain lion, deer, coyotes, raccoons. And I support you and thank you, and I want to move the item.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion on behalf of San Joaquin. Is there a second? And then we'll continue discussion.
It's Foothill
Oh,
Eastern.
I'm sorry, Foothill, yes. So we have a motion by Vice Chair Voits on behalf of Foothill and a second by Director Meeks. So we will continue our discussion and then seek a motion from San Joaquin Hills. Supervisor Wagner.
Thank you. I respect Director Voits and the motion, although I think it's a little premature. I got a question. I get it why we have a 10% contingency for construction contracts, for capital contracts. We get rain delays, we get increases in price, we have all sorts of problems. I'm not sure I'm seeing for something like this the need for, what is it, an extra $300,000+ for a 10% contingency for these kinds of contracts. Walk me through what could possibly justify us spending that much more, all of a sudden on this type of a project?
So the length of the contract is 8 years, but we have unforeseen circumstances that could happen in the field. For example, yeah. So
Tell me what could happen that would justify us coming back here for more.
So most of the work that we do is dependent on the season. So if we have heavy rains, we might have roads that wash away and need to have some additional stuff done beyond what we may have contemplated. We also have invasive species. We have what they call emergent invasive species. So sometimes you have a spread of invasive species that are not common to the area. And so you have to go in and control that. And that control could be over multiple number of years.
I just don't understand why you can't come back to us and say, hey, we had an invasive species problem, we need more money. And everybody here would say, okay, fine. But, it's not, to my mind, those scenarios are very different than typically in a capital project with a cost overrun.
And so I would say, Director, the 10%, we would not tap into that unless we absolutely need to.
Well, I appreciate you wouldn't do it unless you absolutely need to, but those examples you just gave me are not cost overruns that the 10% is typically for. Those are new unforeseen problems that you could come back to us and say, hey, we have a new unforeseen problem.
Yeah.
Right?
For those services, but we also have things that require us or the contractors to purchase materials, and there is fluctuation in the price of materials that may not have been encompassed in the original cost.
Like what? I mean, I asked you for examples. Why didn't you give me that? Like what?
So we do fence repairs, and we have facilities that we may require to have materials purchased by the contractor.
$300,000 in fence repairs?
Over 8 years.
Okay. I just think, look, I think what happened here is you guys tack on 10% all the time, so it was just like, well, let's add that 10%. Nobody will blink. I'm blinking. I don't think we need it. You need more money. Fence goes down, car hits a fence, bear runs through a fence. Do we even have bears anymore? Come back to us and we'd fix it. I think I oppose the 10% contingency. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, Mr. CEO, did you have anything to add?
Not at this time.
Okay, thank you. All right, we will continue on with our comments. No, I see, oh, you dropped off. Okay. Director Schnell and then Director Lim.
Great. Thank you, Doctor. Appreciate the presentation. A couple of questions. I'm assuming that this is the most responsive and lowest bidder amongst the 5 or 6 that we looked at. Is that correct?
So this is a bench, so it's a $0 contract. So these are pre-qualified firms, and then for every work that we need, we issue task orders. So cost is not, they provide rates, but not overall cost.
Okay, and this is a continuation of services that we've been doing out in these open areas, correct?
Correct.
So how does this new 5-year contract and 3-year extension compare to the cost that we were paying previously? Did we have a 5-year contract previously? Just trying to get a sense for, did they go up, did they go down?
So there is year-over-year inflation of about 5% due to labor and material cost. So it's about the same, but we also have some activities that we are anticipating. For example, at our Saddle Club property, we're starting to do activities to actually implement the restoration activities. So that will add a little bit of money. So it's consistent, but with about 5% inflation year over
Just
year.
so I'm clear, so the total value of the 5-year contract is $3.4 million. I'm just wondering.
For both agencies.
Right, so what was the previous five-year contract worth? Was it 5% less than this amount, than 3.4, or was it, I mean, it's always helpful to understand kind of the cost structure between the new contract versus the previous contract, and that's not in this proposal.
Yes, I would say about 5% less when you're looking at year over year,
So the aggregate five-year contract previously was 5% less than this one?
about
Okay,
thereabouts.
okay, thank you.
Director Lim, followed by Director Beal.
Thank you. Well, so thank you so much. That was a very good presentation. I really appreciate all the hard work that you put through this. I have two questions, and one of them is probably more obvious for me, is the Foothill Eastern Transportation Corridor. We have about, a big chunk of this, 3.2 million, versus the San Joaquin is only is less than 10% of the cost. So can you, first of all, can you tell me that breakdown so I can understand why one cost is so much higher than the next cost? And then the other thing is, it's really expensive. I mean, this is $3 million is a lot of money. And I wanted to know, our Supervisor Don Wagner had mentioned, that's a lot of money for fencing. For over 5 years, I get it, but it's just a lot of money. Are we looking at the best prices, or is there any way that we could think about cost reduction? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Director. So the split between the San Joaquin and Foothill, that's based on when you look at San Joaquin, we have about 25% of the lands on that side. So we are looking at, we have facilities like the Austin Sand Filter, Bonita Creek, Coyote Canyon. But the largest of our mitigation sites, we have Upper Chiquita Conservation Area, which is the largest of our mitigation sites. That's on Foothill Eastern. We have Live Oak property where we've been doing the cattle grazing. We have Saddle Club where we're spending a lot of money because we're now implementing the board-approved site plan, also the resource management plan and habitat restoration that we are anticipating in the next, during the period that these contractors will be in place. So the majority of the work, those sites consume the majority of the work on Foothill Eastern. And we do have a 5-year invasive species management plan that we're just starting in the Upper Chiquita area. So that consumes a lot of money. We're probably looking at about $100,000 a year. At Saddle Club, implementation of the restoration measures, we're probably looking at about $50,000 to $60,000 a year. We have ongoing stuff at our Live Oak property where we're doing, again, the board-approved seed addition. We continue to do the cattle grazing. So those things add up. It's not just the fence project or the fence repairs that we're talking about. There are multiple things that are covered by these contracts. Yeah.
Chair Kelly,
Yes, Mr. CEO.
if I may add a bit more longer-term view to the question asked. This is not an inexpensive activity that we do for our mitigation properties. In your adopted strategic plan, we do have language in there to take a look at our mitigation properties and see if we can work on transferring those out of our ownership into another third party's ownership with an endowment, so it would get us out of this side of managing those properties. It's not a quick activity that we're doing. Some of our properties still require mitigation monitoring and some habitat requirements from resource agencies. But we are working on that, and we anticipate we're bringing some meat back to the Environmental Committee with exploration on how we're progressing in that area.
Okay, thank you. We're having a lot of questions and discussion, and that's just fine. Next, Director Beal, followed by Director Grant.
Thank you. Appreciate the presentation. Following up on Director Lim's comments relating to the allocation between the two agencies, typically I see something a lot closer to a 50-50 allocation. This one's like 90-10. And I heard your explanation just now. Is that, and I'm still just a little unclear and uncertain how we come up with that allocation.
So again, Director, that's based on the proportionate distribution of the facilities we have to take care of on the San Joaquin versus Foothills Eastern. So San Joaquin, we have most of our money goes to the maintenance of the Austin Center filter, and then we have 5 toll plazas. So only one, Catalina View, on the 73, where we do fuel modification. We have 4 of those on the Foothills Eastern. That's in addition to the lands management that we just talked about at the major sites that we have. So
Did our existing contract have a similar allocation between our two agencies?
yes.
Okay. And in practice, when the on-call vendor is called to perform a project, then in practice, the cost for that particular activity is assigned to that agency's budget, is that correct?
Correct.
It's not just whatever dollars are spent by the on-call team get a 90-10 split. It just depends on where the project occurred.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Director Beal. Next, we have Director Grant, followed by Director Schnell. Are you on again? Okay, let's get through those who haven't spoken, and then I'll add you at the end. So Director Grant, followed by Director Payzold.
So just quickly, more of a comment than a question, just in the same line of what Supervisor Wagner was talking about. I think we all as council members, or many of us as council members, struggle with the same thing, even in our cities, that we have these contingencies, and they're quite large at times, and they, obviously they're very important. This is not a science. It's a lot of things that you said, environmental factors, other factors. I think with respect to Supervisor Wagner's question, it's really actually a broader question about our process here as an organization. And when you're separating out contracts, as the supervisor said, that are related to construction, where there are certain contingencies that, prices of goods and tariffs and everything that's going on in our world today. And then these other types of contracts that are more subtle in needing or not needing contingencies. Maybe that's something that we can agenda for another opportunity and talk about. I don't know if we have a specific mandate or organizational process that always adds 10% to every single contract, and maybe we need to look at that, or maybe there is flexibility, but I think it's a broader issue of how we do business here. It applies here, it's come up, and it's very interesting because it does come up at my council a lot. There's other questions about contingencies in general that maybe get into the weeds too much, but, where does the money go after you don't use it, or when you need the money, where do we trigger that we have to come back here? Is it just, there's all these, I think we could use a little bit of a tutorial maybe at another opportunity about the process. So that was my only comment.
Mr. CEO?
Yeah, so I hear the direction, and what I would propose is that we bring a general update of our procurement process through our finance committee and work it through that avenue, with the potential of bringing it back to the full board if needed. We'll add a little bit of context when it comes to contingencies from my perspective. We do spend staff hours, although not in the order of magnitude you're seeing for the contingency, but it is a cost for us to bring back supplemental requests for additional funding if issues materialize like Mr. Fringamia discussed. So there is some efficiencies there by getting pre-approval for the contingencies. But I understand the direction and understand the need to have more information about it.
Does that conclude your comments? Okay, thank you. We'll go to Director Payzold, and then Director Connors, and then back again to Director Wagner.
Thank you. Yes, I agree, and I appreciate the CEO's comments about how we can be alerted as an organization when a contingency is being used. And my one thought is perhaps with the consent calendar, maybe a section where contingencies are reported. That might be an idea. Anyway, I yield my comments.
Thank you. So we'll go next to Director Connors, and then Director Wagner, you're removing your request to speak. Okay, okay. All right, so we'll hear from Director Connors next.
I have no problem with the contingency. I think that we're talking about, as you mentioned, things that are very often weather-related, such as the growth of invasive species, or roads or facilities being damaged by weather, or wildfire prevention. These days, the weather is certainly as big of an issue as our tariffs, because we have larger than usual rainstorms, larger than usual fires. We have a lot of things that are going on. And I have confidence in our staff that they will use this contingency appropriately and respond to what needs to be done to maintain our mitigation areas as we are required to do. So I think it's an inefficient use of the board's time or staff's time to bring back to the board every time a car runs through a fence or a road gets washed out. I think these things are foreseeable and predictable, and it's wise for us just to put money aside in case they happen. The other thing I want to point out is that we are not just doing this environmental mitigation because we're the good guys, although we are the good guys, but all of these things are required of us by the state as a condition of our building the roads. Can you refresh our memory about how many different environmental actions were required when we got our permits and how many of them are still left?
So for the Foothills East End, we had over 300 mitigation measures, and we are down to the last 2.
Okay. I'll just move this item for San Joaquin. Thank
Okay,
you.
so we have a motion on behalf of San Joaquin Hills by Director Connors. Is there a second on that? And then we'll continue discussion.
Second.
Second by Vice Chair Otto. And we will continue our discussion. We have Director Zandbergen next.
Oh, great. Hi. Is there any way we can do a look back on the cost on what you're talking about that consumes all this money? You know, kind of categorize it. So when we're asking about the budget from the last 5 years, it was X dollars, and kind of have some bullet point headers on car crashes, fencing, evasive, just to get an idea of, you know, where the bulk of that money is going. I know that's very fluid, so it will change, but just get an idea of what it was, and then, you know, it could be the same, or in the next 5 years, how things have changed. You know, maybe the evasiveness has gone down, less car crashes, less maintenance on the toll booths and readers and anything of that nature. Is that possible?
We can provide that, Director.
Okay.
Thank you. We will next go to Vice Chair Voights, followed by okay, Director Wagner is back.
So I looked at it, you know, I'm so used to as a elected official and a representative for the city and TCA and some of the other agencies I'm with, I 10% rubber stamp it. But the fact is, this is a typical capital improvement project, you know. I understand that I think that we had cost overrun when we had the fire run through and damage our wildlife jump-offs. We had to redo all that. That was an add-on. I think there was a car that went through the transition at the 241-91 off transition. A car went through the end of the wildlife fencing, and we had to repair that. And then the beautiful fencing that we see at the Saddle Club. The white fencing, I've got compliments from the people in the canyon. They love the white fencing along our property at the Saddle Club. But I have had complaints that the horse trails aren't open through there like we promised the canyon riders. But the fact is, I think that maybe in future contracts, we look at the possibility of not maybe needing the full 10%. I know it's a standard bureaucratic add-on, having a 10% contingency, but, you know, things like maybe with the fires and stuff, I think that would have been an easy ask for us to repair those wildlife jump-offs. And so just, I'm cognizant of what Director Wagner said, that it's a lot of money to put aside, but I'm confident that we won't use it unless we have to. And I have made the motion, but I think that in future, we come back and look at that for future overruns and possible future overruns, which you can never tell, but like I said, and I think that this would include the future wildlife fencing we have farther down the 241. Is that going to be included in that?
No.
No? Okay. That's my comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have, I think, two more. CEO Chamberlain.
Yeah, to be brief, we also have in our future workload to consider an update to our CAPS manual, procurement manual, which does have general guidance on the use of contingencies. So there is an opportunity as we update that manual that we put a little bit more meat into the logic behind the consideration of contingencies or not. I would still propose that we, at least as an information item, come back through the Finance Committee to talk about our existing practice and future opportunities to modify if needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. We next go to Director Schnell, followed by Supervisor Wagner.
Great, thank you very much, appreciate it. I would propose, since you mentioned that there was a 5% increase between the last 5-year contract and this contract, and to try to be wise and judicious like King Solomon to split the baby here, I would like to propose a modification to the recommendation to just say we'll do a 5% contingency. So 5% acknowledging that increase from the previous 5-year contract, and then trying to balance some of the concerns that people here on the board have about the 10% contingency. So I would propose a modification to do a 5% contingency on this.
Okay, Director Schnell is proposing, making a motion to provide an amendment to that motion on behalf of Foothill Eastern. Is there a second?
Second.
There
I'll
is,
make the same motion on behalf of San Joaquin.
okay, and is there a second on behalf of San Joaquin?
Connors, I'll second.
Madam Clerk, did you capture the names?
Yes, I did.
Okay, thank you. So we will first vote on the amendment for Foothill Eastern. And the amendment is to change the contingency to 5%?
Correct, yes.
Okay. All right, Foothill Eastern, Mr. Attorney, did you have a further discussion? Okay, let's have, looks like we have discussion on the, this is on the amendment. Okay, Supervisor Wagner?
All right, thank you. I kind of want to push back on the idea that this is a typical capital improvement project. I don't think it is by any means typical. I mean, it's maybe typical in that agencies today need to do this because the state has come in and used its muscle to say you must do this, but this is not what we do. The typical capital improvement projects are to the roads. And so in that sense, it is atypical and shouldn't be shoehorned into the typical contracting process. And I appreciate, with the manual coming back to us, an opportunity to maybe refine this. I want to also suggest that, we know we're going to have fence problems. We know, car crashes, et cetera, are foreseeable. I'll agree. Those should be in the contract priced in already. What we're talking about with a contingency is by definition unforeseeable. So it's not the foreseeable animal runs through a fence, car goes through a fence, rain washes out a road. All that's foreseeable. Indeed, one of the suggested companies on this, Nikkei and Associates, it looks like can do that kind of stuff. The rest, they're environmental companies. I don't know that they could do road work, for example, but we're there. All right. I don't know that I want to keep beating this. The board's come around, CEO suggested there will be some changes, but this is important. It's a lot of money in this contract, and it's a lot of money just in each and every single contract we let. And so I think the discussion is appropriate at this point, and I appreciate the board's taking some consideration of it, and I want to make sure that at least I'm on record saying the foreseeable stuff needs to be contracted for up front, rather than just left to be scooped into a contingency later. And I urge approval of the motions.
Madam Chair, I'd like to just jump in. Mr. Director, I did say this was not a typical CIP capital improvement project, and it's not like a bridge. And so the fact is that there were unforeseen things, but I just want to clarify that I didn't say this was a typical one. So, and I thank you for bringing it forth. I think all of our eyes have been opened by your wisdom. Thank you.
All right, we have continued discussion here. Someone just dropped off. Did you just drop off?
I think it's working correctly, but. yeah.
Okay, Director
yeah,
Grant,
Thank you.
and then followed by Director Meeks.
Just a quick question for Ryan. I don't know that we've ever had this happen before where we've changed a 10% contingency to a 5%. I think I've only ever seen 10%. And in deference to you and the idea about staff time regarding how we do this, is that going to complicate the, accounting or other metrics that we have to do to accomplish this project? Is it going to complicate it to go from 10 to 5 on just this one, if you don't mind?
Yeah, so the short answer is no. We're reducing our cushion in the event there is an unforeseen incident out there, more traffic accidents where the fence gets damaged than we had anticipated, for example, or one or more additional larger storms that wash out more than what we had anticipated. If we go over the 5, or we think we will, we'll be back to the board for ask for additional funding. And I fully appreciate the conversation, understand where I'm hearing most of the directors are at is get a little bit more surgical in how we treat contingencies, and we'll do that through the committee process and likely through the CAPS manual updates.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to make sure making it 5% as opposed to generally how we always do 10%, it wouldn't.
We can manage it.
Yeah, we could, okay, great, thank you.
That was a good question. Thank you, Director Grants. I think our final comment is Director Meeks.
I'm going to support the 10%. I know it's a lot of money, but it's a very large contract too, and it is 10%. And there are, we can try to fold in traffic accidents, but we don't know how many traffic accidents there are going to be, how many roads are going to wash out. So having some cushion in this certainly gives staff the flexibility to move quickly on things and address potentially emergency situations and hazards in the community that need to be addressed quickly without coming back to the board and adding more bureaucracy into it. So I trust the CEO and the staff to make the right decisions on this and not be building fences where they're not necessary. So I will support the 10%.
Thank you, and I see we have Supervisor Chafee.
Yes, thank you. Concerned about 2 things. One, because there's a contingency doesn't mean it will be spent. It's only if it's needed, and I assume there'll be a change order appropriately done by staff. Second thing, we're working along a high-speed roadway. I'm concerned about worker safety. We need some additional staff people out there, not necessarily our staff, but the vendor staff. Make certain that there's appropriate signage out there warning people that there is work going on next to these high speed. So I don't think, it is not typical, I agree with that, but I do want to be certain that it's done safely and that we have enough personnel that the vendor has. I think there's more cost to it than just installing the fence as a safety issue here. So I oppose the motion. Thank you.
You oppose the amendment?
Yeah, the amendment, sorry, yes, I think
Okay.
the 10% is fine.
Okay. All right, I think that concludes our speakers. So we will first vote on the amendment, and we'll take Foothill Eastern first. So, Madam Clerk, would you please repeat the amendment to the motion?
The amendment to the motion was to lower the contingency to 5%.
Okay, so Foothill Eastern directors, all those in favor of the amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Opposed. One opposed, Director Meeks. Okay, that motion then carries with one opposed. So we will vote on the main motion now for Foothill Eastern, which has been amended.
So we.
Mr. Rubin.
I just want to confirm that we wanted that to be an amendment and not a substitute motion, in which case a substitute motion would have actually, that vote would have been the vote of approval of the amendment and the underlying item as amended, as opposed to just a simple amendment of the proposed motion.
Mine was a substitute motion.
Okay. So was a Foothill Eastern
And my second
Under-
was to a substitute motion.
Was the
If I
Foothill Eastern-
misunderstood it, please clarify.
No. I mean, I'm approving the recommendation, and the only change would be reducing the contingency from 10 to 5%.
Okay, so
a
I
substitute
I
motion.
would,
Whatever
I would
wording.
appreciate it, just the Foothill Eastern board members, since that was just taken, that, did everyone understand that that was a substitute motion?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So there's no further action required on the Foothill Eastern item.
Okay, I didn't catch substitute motion, so that's good. Thank you for clarifying that. Okay, we will now vote on the substitute motion on behalf of San Joaquin Hills, which motion was made by Supervisor Wagner. All those in favor of the substitute motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I want to clarify, I support the construction of the fence, but I don't support the change in the contingency. So how do I register that vote?
So that would be a.
So for the Foothill Eastern, that would be a no from Director Chafee. That's the clarification?
Well, I still want to support the project. I don't want to support the change in contingency. That's my only concern. So the yes vote on the mitigation measure, doing all the fencing, but I don't support reducing the contingency to 5%.
Right, so, right, it was one motion at the 5% as opposed to 10, so that would be treated as a no as to that substitute motion, but because it passed, that would be passed as amended. So that substitute motion would be the 5%, and would you like to register yourself as no on the recommendation with the only change being 5%? Or are you just saying that you are supportive and you approve it, but you would like it noted for purpose of the comments that you would support 10% as well?
Well, my issue is supporting the mitigation measure irrespective of the contingency amount. So I would like it divided into two motions. One is to the reduction as to the contingency from 10 to 5, and I would vote no on that. And then as the project as a whole, even though it now has a 5%, I would vote yes.
So the vote has already taken place on the substitute motion. What we can do at this time is we can note those comments as you voted in favor, and that's how you would address it, and we would include that in the minutes. Or if a majority of the board is so inclined, you could request a reconsideration of the item, in which case if the majority of the board said yes to that, we would then bifurcate, you'd request to bifurcate, and then if that happened, then you would then revote. So
Well, I don't know how many times to repeat myself, but it's, or take any more board time, but I want this project to go forward. And so if that comment can be noted in the minutes, I'm fine with the rest.
okay, that will be noted. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. And the vote on behalf of San Joaquin Hills was passed with one vote, one no? Director, two noes.
Are you San Joaquin?
San Joaquin, sorry. Yes, San Joaquin. You were a no.
I'm a no.
Right, only one no for San Joaquin.
Okay. All right. Okay, Madam Clerk, did you capture that motion and the results?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Thank you. So both motions passed with the noes voted, the noes noted. Thank you. Okay, well, let's see how we do with item number 15. Dr. Faramenga, we'll hear that report again, please, or that report now.
Thank you again, Madam Chair. I'd like to acknowledge and welcome Mr. Dan Silver, who's the main representative of Safe San Onofre Coalition, who's here today, and he'll be available for any questions if the board would like to hear from him. This item was presented to the Joint Environmental Committee on October 22nd, and the committee recommended that it be brought to the Foothill Eastern Board for consideration. The plan before you reflects a collaborative effort with the Safe San Onofre Coalition, or SSOC, and the Habitat Conservation Fund Oversight Committee, which includes the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, as well as the California Department of Fish and Wildlife Service. Our request today is straightforward but significant. Adopt the expenditure plan, authorize the CEO to execute agreements and disburse funds for 3 restoration projects and acquisition-related due diligence. We will return to the board for approval of final acquisition costs and endowment agreements once negotiations have been completed. In 2016, TCA, SSOC, and multiple state agencies entered a landmark settlement resolving long-standing litigation over the extension of State Route 241. This agreement, among other things, established a $28 million Habitat Conservation Fund, or HCF, for land acquisition and habitat restoration projects, collectively referred to as conservation measures. In 2022, the agreement was amended to extend implementation through 2030, to expand the geographic scope countywide, and allow TCA to use or transfer mitigation credits provided projects avoid the designated avoidance area within the San Mateo Creek watershed. All conservation measures require mutual agreement between TCA and SSOC, with the Futu Eastern Board maintaining oversight. Last year, the board allocated $8 million for near-term efforts by 2025 and $20 million for long-term projects through 2030. Today's focus is on near-term program, which includes about $1.1 million for targeted restoration projects and a unique opportunity to protect over 900 acres of high-value habitat through an anticipated 50-50 cost-share partnership with CDFW. This collaboration with CDFW presents a rare chance to leverage resources and maximize our conservation efforts. Over the past year, we have reached several key milestones, starting with the board, the Futu Eastern Board, approving the selection criteria last September. The criteria included biological factors such as habitat types and quality, species presence, landscape connectivity, among other things, as well as non-biological factors such as project timing, partnerships, development threats, and core benefits such as public access. From October through December 2024, we launched an open and competitive solicitation process, including 3 public workshops. Proposals were evaluated by a team representing SSOC, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, CDFW, and TCA through a 2-step process, a quantitative scoring based on the board-approved selection criteria, followed by qualitative reviews through interviews, site visits, and focused discussions with applicants on readiness, partnerships, and scalability of the projects, among other things. We're now at the final steps, recommending conservation measures or projects and presenting the expenditure plan for your approval. The expenditure plan, included as attachment D in the staff report, includes project selection, funding schedules, reporting and documentation of our settlement obligations. The plan ensures transparency, accountability, and alignment with our legal responsibility as well as our conservation goals. We received 18 proposals totaling $29.4 million, 13 restoration projects highlighted in yellow on this map, and 5 acquisition proposals highlighted in red. The strong response demonstrated 2 things: the depth of conservation need across our county as well as the value partnership-based habitat protection is placed by our partners. After the rigorous evaluation I just talked about, we recommend 2 high priority acquisitions, the Irvine Mesa and Joplin properties, with CDFW's anticipated 50% cost share. HCF's contribution would be about $6.2 million for both properties. We are also recommending 3 restoration projects: Audubon Star Ranch for $50,000, Crystal Cove Conservancy for $320,600, and Irvine Ranch Conservancy's Salt Creek project for $737,000. Together, these projects represent a strategic mix of immediate restoration and long-term land protection. In the next few slides, I'll give you a really quick overview of all these conservation measures. Starting with the Irvine Mesa property, this is a 586-acre property in Silverado Canyon. It offers exceptional biological value, coastal sage scrub, riparian areas, oak woodlands, and wildlife connectivity. The bold red and hatched red lines that you see on the map on the top represents existing and proposed trails, respectively, from the county's master plan of major riding and hiking trails. Although there are no formal trails on this site, the existing access roads that you see in the bottom photo offer future opportunities for managed public access and improved regional trail connectivity. With minimum restoration needs, this is a highly efficient conservation acquisition. The 329-acre Joplin property in Trabuco Canyon connects Cleveland National Forest to the north to conserved lands to the south and southeast, creating a critical wildlife corridor for species such as the mountain lion. Public access through this property was extensively discussed at the Joint Environmental Committee, specifically a hiking and equestrian trail connecting Rose Canyon Road to the southeast and Cleveland National Forest to the north. There is a county proposed trail on this property that envisions this connection. Joplin property is what's highlighted in blue, and you can see the line that's going through there. That's the proposed trail. Following the committee discussion, we continued to coordinate with our partners on how best to incorporate responsible public access on this property. As we move through due diligence, we'll continue evaluating options, but we believe there's a path forward for managed public access that thoughtfully balances recreation and habitat protection. Post-acquisition, both the Irvine Mesa property and Joplin properties will transfer to a qualified nonprofit land trust for perpetual management, ensuring no ongoing obligations for TCA or SSOC. We're proposing 3 restoration projects targeting 2 critical habitat types, cactus scrub and coastal sage scrub. These ecosystems are vital for species like the cactus wren, a species of special concern, and the coastal California gnatcatcher, a federally endangered species that depends exclusively on coastal sage scrub for survival. Beyond species protection, these habitats protect biodiversity and ecosystem resilience, but they are highly vulnerable to wildfires, invasive species, and slow recovery after a drought or fire, making proactive restoration as proposed here essential. The first proposed project is at Audubon Star Ranch Sanctuary, aiming to restore 128 acres of cactus scrub, coastal sage scrub, and grasslands using research-based non-chemical methods and community engagement. The HCF would provide 25% of the funding, supporting restoration of about 32 acres. This investment leverages partner contribution and strengthens collaborative partnerships. The next project is led by the Crystal Cove Conservancy and focuses on restoring approximately 4 acres of habitat within Crystal Cove State Park. The proposed work involves removing invasive species, improving habitat connectivity, and reducing wildfire risk, 3 key strategies for long-term ecosystem resilience. By enhancing habitat connectivity, this project supports not only the cactus wren, but also broader biodiversity and fire resilience goals. It's a targeted, science-based approach to restoring ecological function in a highly impacted area. Lastly, but certainly not least, the Salt Creek Restoration Project in Laguna Niguel will restore 10 acres of cactus scrub and coastal sage scrub habitat. This project employs innovative methods such as compost-enhanced planting beds to improve soil health and plant establishment. It also employs spatial habitat separation to reduce wildfire risk and improve ecological recovery. This restoration will create a vital stepping stone for the coastal California gnatcatcher and cactus wren, making it a critical investment in long-term ecological resilience. The total proposed expenditure for these initiatives is approximately $1.2 million, $100,000 for acquisition due diligence, and $1.1 million for restoration projects. Again, acquisition, final purchase, and endowment costs will be brought back to the board for approval once negotiations are complete. Restoration funding will be phased, 80% provided upfront this fiscal year, and 20% upon completion or near completion of the proposed projects. In summary, staff is recommending the Foothill Eastern Board find the projects exempt from CEQA, approve the expenditure plan, authorize the CEO to execute restoration agreements and disburse funds, and authorize due diligence and endowment planning for acquisitions. This completes my reports, Madam Chair, and we'll be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Faramenga. This is a Foothill Eastern only item, and we do have a couple of requests to speak. Vice Chair Voights?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Doug. Obviously, I'm a supporter of the conservation agreement that we've had with the San Onofre Coalition, but I'm cognizant of that these properties that we're buying in Irvine, Mesa, the Joplin area, actually could possibly impede the equestrian community of the canyons. There's over 1,000 horses that registered as living in Chibuco Canyon in the canyon areas up there. So the fact that the Joplin Canyon property is actually adjacent to the Joplin Boy Count, and that's Rose Canyon and Joplin Canyon Trail. And those areas have a high concentration of horses. And I'd hate to purchase property for conservation for future generations and close it off to our equestrian community now. So I just want to, I know that there's actually a trail that's already been designated that I just got a text message from one of the cowboys. The Joplin Trail goes through that property, and that's already a trail that's been utilized for years, decades. So I'll just say that I'm concerned about future access for the horses in the canyons, and I support the action, but as they're moving forward, this motion, this item, but I'm concerned that we keep the trail access to the Cleveland National Forest for the equestrian community. This is an area where high-density track homing will never come. You may have some estates built up there on the ridge tops up there, but you're never going to have the kind of congestion of housing that we have in Irvine or Lake Forest. So I think that moving forward cautiously, I'm supportive of the action. Thank you. You know, there are ranches right down the street from the Trabuco Steakhouse is the Ferber Ranch. That's already been closed off by OCTA, where they got fence all the way around it, and that was one of the trailheads. They've actually made another trailhead that jumps into the Joplin Horse Trail, but they had to use alternatives. And the Saddle Club it's still not open to horse riders that we had promised the equestrian community up there when we talked about that purchase of that property and putting leaving it open for a horse trail to O'Neill Park. O'Neill Park is on the opposite side of Santiago Canyon Road from the Saddle Club, and they have no access from that. So that's my statement, and thank you.
Thank you. We now will go to Director Schnell.
Thank you. Thank you, Doctor. Appreciate the presentation. Just a quick question. Overall, I'm supportive of these efforts. Question I have is around the Crystal Cove restoration. So Crystal Cove is a state park, and just want to understand, so is that something that we would allocate money for? Is that something that the state would normally do, these types of conservation restoration efforts?
So the HCF, or Habitat Conservation Fund, looks at any project that is beneficial to Orange County. Crystal Cove is actually within the Habitat Conservation and CCP for Orange County. So it is part of the bigger planned area, the conservation area. And the project, what we will be providing is actually in collaboration with what the state is doing. So we are providing about $320,600. The total project cost is about $567,000. So there is a collaborative effort with the state.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you. I don't see any further questions or comments. I will entertain a motion. Again, this is Foothill Eastern.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Director Taylor and a second by Director Wagner. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
We now will go to item number 16, which is third-party collections procurement services. And we will hear from Alex Leyva, Director of Customer Service. Mr. Leyva?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, directors. My name is Alex Leyva. I serve as your Director of Customer Service. The item before you is a request to authorize a task order with GFT Infrastructure Incorporated for procurement support services for a third-party collections provider. This item was presented to the Joint Toll Operations Committee and unanimously recommended for approval. A little bit of background as to why we're doing this. One of the objectives for customer service in your strategic plan is improved revenue recovery and account resolutions. While more than 96% of our tolls are collected through our regular accounts and regular processing channels, there are still a portion that remain unpaid. You may recall that in December of 2024, staff presented the committee with the outstanding violations receivables of approximately $250 million, an overview of our comprehensive process, as well as staff's consideration to augment our current efforts with a third-party collections provider. Subsequently, at the January Joint Boards of Directors meeting, the discussion led to several questions about the process and about the makeup of the unresolved debt. Staff was directed to provide a memo to the boards, which was provided to board members on February 13th of 2025. Staff still believes the addition of a third-party collections provider would be beneficial in improving efficiency and compliance on our unresolved debt. I'd also like to note that we are one of the few agencies that does not use a third-party collections provider. The next step in this process would be to draft a request for procurement. And while TCA does have a small but mighty staff, we currently do not have the bandwidth to execute this procurement. In instances such as this, we use consultants to augment staff. Integrating a third-party provider represents a significant change requiring careful planning and execution. This task order will provide expertise in procurement and collections and function as an extension of TCA staff. If approved, we're currently targeting to release the RFP in 2026. Once an identified vendor, a proposed vendor has been identified, we will then return to the boards for contract authorization. And if that were approved, we would proceed to implement the contract. In terms of the scope, GFT would support the agencies throughout the procurement and implementation process. They'll assist in developing a strategy by evaluating the current process and define requirements to help draft the RFP. They'll also assist in the execution of the procurement, including evaluation criteria and vendor interviews. So the first two steps you see here, planning and strategy and procurement development, are the initial steps before returning to the boards for contract authorization. We would then continue with procurement execution and onboarding and post-award support, and again, that would only occur after the vendor has been identified and we return to the boards. In terms of the selection process, staff issued a request for task orders to our pre-qualified bench of toll system consultants, and we received 3 responsive proposals. Staff evaluated the proposals based on team knowledge, experience, schedule, and cost. GFT had the lowest cost at $129,000 with a schedule of 32 weeks. HNTB came in at $211,000 with a schedule of 28 weeks, and Fagan Consultant came in at $331,000 with a schedule of 38 weeks. Staff conducted interviews with each firm and determined that GFT's proposal offered the best value based on cost, schedule, and relevant experience. The GFT infrastructure team has a strong understanding of the scope of this work, has relevant experience supporting other agencies with similar procurements, and has experience with TCA systems, which I'll touch on in the next slide. A little bit more about GFT. They're headquartered in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania. And the selected team does have experience with TCA, having supported TCA through 2 of our more complex projects. The first being the back office migration in 2023, and more recently, the integration and implementation of the San Bernardino County Transportation Authority transaction processing. The proposed team has also recently completed similar procurements for the Massachusetts Department of Transportation, where they're currently seeing an average recovery rate of 30%. Their subject matter expert also has experience as an operational leader, so she brings a unique blend of experience from both sides of the table. The cost for each agency is shown on this slide, and the allocation is based on the number of transactions processed for each agency. With that, the recommendation for the San Joaquin Hills Transportation Corridor Agency is to authorize the CEO to execute task order T004 to contract number K001376 with GFT Infrastructure Incorporated to provide procurement support services for third-party collections in an amount not to exceed $48,980, with 10%. Second, to authorize the CEO to make additional changes deemed necessary and to execute amendments within 10% or $4,898 of the task order value without further board action. The recommendation for Foothill Eastern is the same, with a not to exceed amount of $79,916 and a contingency of $7,992. This concludes my presentation, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Leyva. We will have questions now from Director Schnell, followed by Vice Chair Voits.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Director. Appreciate it. I just have really one quick question. In looking at the different bids, there's a substantial delta between GFT and the others. Just want to make sure that the scope of services that they're providing is similar to the other firms. Because again, that's a pretty big delta. I just want to make sure that we're purchasing what we actually need to support our customer service.
It is. When reviewing the scope, it was within the realm of what staff anticipated.
Yeah, I mean, great job. I'm happy to see that it's substantially lower, but I just, again, wanted to make sure that there wasn't a big, kind of difference between what the other firms are offering and what this firm is offering.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Voits.
Yeah, my first is a compliment to Vinny and you, Alex. Thank you so much. This is a good contract. It's going to actually enable TCA to actually collect more of the tolls that are out there pending. That was one of the questions we had on the Toll Ops Committee is it this price, is it cover everything that we need? And you assured us it did. And so I'm ready to, and thanking both of you for your contract negotiation skills there, because it was a good contract. And so I'm ready to move staff recommendations, and thank you both.
Okay, we have a motion by Vice Chair Voits. Is there a second on behalf of Foothill? Schnell? Schnell made the second. And we'll continue discussion. Director Lim?
I worked on many contracts before, and I know that when you have discrepancies like this, I mean, it's almost double the amount that your third bidder. I just kind of wanted to know, what is the discrepancy? Like, is it because one's out of state or one's in state? What am I looking at, and why is there such a big delta?
The Gannett Fleming did have a significantly higher number of hours, but based on staff's knowledge and staff's experience, we determined that that number of hours wasn't necessary to complete this procurement. So GFT, with their experience and the hours provided, it was sufficient for our purpose.
Just a follow-up on that. So were they given the opportunity to come back with the hours on your bidding process, or was that something that, like, I broke it down by monthly basis, but then you're saying that is more hourly basis. Did the other two bidders, did they get a chance to look at that too as well, or you just went straight off of the bid?
It was straight off of the Northwest Task Order proposals.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for your due diligence on that and for a good report. Let's take care of the Foothill Eastern motion first, and then we'll entertain a motion by San Joaquin Hills. So Foothill Eastern, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. And now may I have a motion from San Joaquin Hills?
Connors, I'll make the motion.
Director Connors,
I'll second.
and a second by Director Taylor. Any further discussion from San Joaquin Hills? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries for San Joaquin Hills as well. Our last business items for today are items 17 and 18, San Joaquin Hills and Foothill Eastern annual audited financial statements. And just know that these items will be presented jointly, but we will vote on them separately. So we will hear from our Lindsay Taylor, our controller, and she will introduce our speaker.
Thank you, Chair Kelly. Good morning, board members. This item, 17 and 18, pertains to the annual financial statements for both San Joaquin Hills and Foothill Eastern for fiscal year ended June 2025. The financial statements were unanimously approved at a joint finance and investment committee meeting that was held in September, and were recommended as receive and file to this meeting. Both agencies received unmodified or clean audit opinions, as well as no audit findings. I'd just like to quickly take a moment to thank my staff for the amount of hard work that went into finalizing the year-end, drafting the financial statements, and then also thank you to Crowe for their support throughout the process. Unfortunately, this morning, Brad Shelley, who is in fact our lead engagement partner and who is new to this engagement, was not able to join us. He does send his apologies. And so we asked Kathy Lai, a familiar face to most of you, to take you through Crowe's presentation for fiscal year 25. Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Again, for the record, I'm Kathy Lai, and I'm audit partner with Crowe and actually lead our California market and also your former audit partner. I was your technical partner this year. So pleased to present the results. I believe there's a presentation. And again, we have a brief agenda here for you today. First, I wanted to remind you of the engagement objectives, what Crowe was engaged to perform on behalf of TCA. Second, I'll go over the audit results, which Lindsay already previewed. And third, I will wrap up with some required communications under our professional standards. So first up, with respect to our engagement objectives, Crowe was engaged to express an opinion on both Foothill Eastern and San Joaquin Hills financial statements as of June 30th, 2025. We are required to conduct our audit in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards, which we did. Those standards require us to express an opinion on whether or not those financial statements are fairly stated in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. Those are our responsibilities. It's also important to note management's responsibilities. Management is required for the preparation of those financial statements to make sure that they're fairly presented in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. They're also required to make sure that there's appropriate internal controls over financial reporting as well. Those are the engagement objectives. I will go over the audit results. Again, pleased to reiterate that we have issued an unmodified opinion on both Foothill Eastern as well as San Joaquin Hills financial statements. That is the highest level of assurance. Essentially, my opinion states that the financial statements are fairly stated in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. And so if that statement is unmodified, it's actually excellent news. So a great report for the agency this year. Last but not least, I'll wrap up with some required communications under our professional standards. First and foremost, I want to confirm that Crowe, as your independent auditor, is independent of TCA. Second, I wanted to highlight that the significant accounting policies are all disclosed within footnote 1 of both sets of financial statements. We have read through those and believe that those are neutral, clear, and consistent with prior years and had no comments on there. Third, every year management is required to implement new accounting standards. There were 2 accounting standards this year. First was GASB 101 in relation to compensated absences, and the second one was in relation to certain risk disclosures. Both did not have a material impact on the agencies, and we had reviewed that and had no comments. Fourth on the slide here are our accounting estimates. It's very normal for entities to have accruals and estimates included in their financial statements. Oftentimes, particular to your agencies back home as well, are retirement obligations, the use of actuarial valuations. Those are very typical. We have reviewed those and had no concerns there. And then last but not least on this slide, I'm pleased to report that we did not have any material corrected or uncorrected misstatements to report to you today. Last on this slide, I'm very pleased to report that we did not note any of those issues noted on the slide. In fact, it was quite the opposite. We had no difficulties with management or disagreements. We weren't aware of them consulting with other auditors to get other opinions, and certainly we're not aware of any other information containing our audited financial statements. So that concludes my presentations. Thank you very much, and I'm happy to address any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Ms. Lai. It's always good to see you back here.
Yes, good to see you.
A familiar face. And thank you, Ms. Taylor, for all of your work and the work of the staff in working with our agency here. And so, directors, this is receive and file only. We do not need motions. So items 17 and 18 are receive and file. Do you have a question or a comment, Director Connors? Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
I just wanted to echo the thanks to our staff, because getting a clean audit is not something that just happens, and it's not something you can just kind of bumble along day to day and have it turn out properly. It takes a lot of focus and a lot of dedication, a lot of work, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Definitely, for sure. Okay, thank you. I don't see any other questions or comments. Thank you, Ms. Lai.
Thank you.
Ms. Taylor. And we had no further public comments. All right, so we will now go to the CEO's report. Mr. Chamberlain?
Thank you, Chair. I will have an abbreviated update for the sake of time. Quickly, last week, members of our toll ops team and myself were out in the desert for the ITS California conference and the CTOC California Toll Operators Committee meeting in person. Key takeaway from the ITS California conference was that it was about partnership, and we had 2 other toll entities that are in the state that were talking about the partnership and future partnership with TCA and how it's leveraging resources, and certainly appreciate our services in back office and customer service. So that was a highlight of TCA, where we're not talking about ourselves, but others are talking about the great partnerships that we're fostering. A very good thing. Our own Mr. McReynolds also presented to CTOC on the status of AB 334, our National Interoperability Bill, and potential path forward in year 2 of the ledge cycle. I will conclude my comments with just doubling down on the fact that we had a very successful public hearing for our 24191 Express Connector project about a month ago. We were anticipating that we would be at the CTC meeting in October. That was postponed. We are anticipating that we will be scheduled for the December CTC meeting on the 4th and the 5th of December, where we will have an item asking for supplemental toll authority for that project. So we are looking forward to continue to progress in delivering that connector project to the public. So I'll conclude my comments there.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. It's great to hear compliments that we're receiving from others about our partnerships and about our work. We will now move to board chair reports, and Chair Penaloza is not here. And I will just say that before, we do have a closed session, but before we move to closed session, I'd like to remind our directors that we have our upcoming holiday board member luncheon next month on December 11th at 11:30. The luncheon is going to take place immediately after our December 11th special joint board meeting. So we will be starting that meeting at 10 o'clock to limit the time in between the board meeting and the luncheon. So if you have not already provided your RSVP to the clerk, please do that via the calendar invite that was sent out earlier this week. We now do have a closed session, so I'll ask Mr. Rubin to please introduce the closed session.
Thank you, Chair Kelly. We have a joint Footle Eastern and San Joaquin closed session conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation under subdivision A and D2 of Government Code Section 54956.9, one potential case, and I do anticipate reportable action.
Okay, thank you. With that, we will now recess to closed session.
We're live? Okay.
Okay, I now reconvene the meeting of the Joint Board of Directors. And Mr. Rubin, would you please let us know, are there any items to report out of closed session?
There are, Chair. Thank you very much. The passed by majority vote with one opposed, authorized the CEO to enter into one or more written agreements at CEO's discretion, extending the time period to act on the claim. If no such written agreement is entered into, then the claim will be denied as of the 44th day. If a written agreement is entered into, but the claim is still outstanding as of that time, then as of the final extension period, the claim will be denied as of that day. And I have no other reportable action.
Thank you, Mr. Rubin. This brings us to adjournment then. The next special meeting of the Joint Boards of Directors will be held on Thursday, December 11th at 10 o'clock at the TCA offices. Meeting is adjourned.